mean, everybody's in town because it is getting late in the year, just about May. Seif's been all over. The college action's heating up. It's getting feisty out in the Diamond, Seif. I was in the command center this weekend, and the boys are getting a little heated out there in the Diamond. The Ags, the Longhorns were getting after it. LSU and Tennessee were bringing all sorts of vibes.
Yeah.
But what I do want to dive into first off the bat was because it was a big weekend on the football draft side of things. And I think most people who come into draft world, like you immediately think about the football draft. It almost gets built up into the next hope. I am a hopeless Jets fan, so I always look at the NFL draft, hoping that next year will be the year for my New York Gangrene Jets. This year, the kid Shedeur Sanders was a guy who continued to fall. And it was something just monitoring the whole way. And then the evaluation of the process. And I kept thinking about the MLB draft and how that comes into play. And it's so much different where it's less talent-based, or I shouldn't say it's less talent-based. It's heavily weighted towards the accounting side of things. And I know you always come on. You wish that would change. So it's strictly talent, 1 through 30. Here's our mock draft. It's just 30 guys that we have in order. He did fall in that draft. And I was thinking about last year in 2024 from the MLB side to this year in 2025. And against the football side of things, how many first round grades? That's what they always talk about, football side. And to me, it feels like the college side has less first round grades this year than it did last year. Is that what you would see too?
Yeah, it's a little less deep, but the biggest difference from last year is just the high quality at the top. Not that there aren't very good players at the top, but you just don't have that 60 OFP guy or that all-star role guy, without maybe more projection than what is normally given.
And from the high school side, I was really like last year, we kept talking about there was depth throughout, like there's later depth, the second round, the arms. And this year, the first guys from last year are taking Connor Griffin, who he was actually in this class. So he would have probably been either number 1 or number 2, your Holiday. And then Bryce Rayner, who I really like. But there's probably like 12 to 15 guys just in this 25 class who would move up ahead of a lot of the kids who were drafted last year in 2024. Now, some of those guys were first rounders. Some got 3 million, 3.5 million, whatever it may be. There are more first round grades in 2025 from the prep side than there were in 2024. That is the overarching statement that we have evaluated here at Prep Baseball. And it's something I think more teams are thinking about right now. And I think there's a good reason why guys are crisscrossing the country looking at prep shortstops, because there's tons of depth there. I still believe, and honestly, this is just the way things go, but the prep right-hander, it's more in that, again, 30 to 50 range, right? We can get that guy with our second pick. It's a bigger collection of guys. The left-handers continue to buzz. Jack Bauer, where can he go? Can he move into the top 10? Is that stuff that big? Can you just not grab that at certain points? But the whole weekend was spent with the NFL draft being so much different than the MLB draft. Meanwhile, Seif, you were out and about on the college trail heavy. What were the biggest takeaways? I know for those of you listening, Seif headed over to Louisville to check out the Cards against the Florida State Seminoles, and you got a chance to check out Jamie Arnold. Where are we at on the Jamie Arnold trail?
Yeah, luckily I've seen Arnold, several times over the years, last spring, last summer at the CNT, in the fall at Alabama, and they're a doubleheader, and then obviously this spring. Arnold just kind of emerging. I know he missed a start with some soreness, I think maybe in week 3. But you know what? He's back. He's the best. If the draft were tomorrow, he'd be the first college guy most likely taken. I mean, there's probably no one else. I mean, Arquette, yeah, there's a couple others you maybe consider. But Arnold is polish. He's some projection. He's a near-ready big leaguer. So if the Nationals don't take him, then the Angels are staring in the face at number 2, and it just goes right with their shtick, for Jamie Arnold. But what did I see? I saw a lefty up to 96. His fastball rises, it fades, tails. He's got a changeup that's like kind of a split change, or I'm not sure if it's a K change or a split change, but it's low spin. It's like 800-900 spin rate. It dives late. It's got some fade, and then he's got a 55-60 slider that just knocks you out, especially for a left-handed hitter. So it's a 2+, maybe even a 3+ left-hander that touches 97. That's pretty darn good. That's a front, not a 1, but that's a 2 or 3, a really good 3, a 2 starter. So,
well, shoot, look at what if the Angels get him at 2, are you talking about another Ryan Johnson situation where like probably shut him down for the summer, you get him going, you bring him to the fall league, and then he's probably making the roster next spring? Is that what you would anticipate with them?
Yeah, just like all there was, Reed Detmers, he wasn't down long, and and as well as they've done with their hitters here lately too. But yeah, exactly. Just shut him down a little bit. Just get to know him, light stuff, rehab, and then let him challenge for a spot on the 25-man opening day roster.
Isn't that incredible? The game has increased to new heights, and I just find that the kids are getting so much better, and it has to do with all the coaching that you get. And the private sector, I had Mike Adams on from BPC up in South Jersey. There's guys all over the place. They understand what their pitchers can do. I think Jamie Arnold did some driveline stuff throughout the offseason. He's very keenly aware of what his arsenal can do, but they've made these jumps and they are outstanding. I think there's tons of value in it, which is why the next CBA will probably be discussed with all these young guys being so good so early. We'll see how that goes. But what about the other lefties? Liam Doyle and Kate Anderson. Guess what, Seif? They just matched up, so they made it easy on you.
They did. They matched up. Liam Doyle, he was absolutely feeling it. He only struck out 6 in 6 2/3, which is about half as many he usually does in 6 2/3. But he only gave it 1 hit, right? On 109 pitches, went into the 7th, deep into the 7th on 109 pitches.
Sure.
That's pretty efficient. Again, his strikeouts were a little bit down, but that's why his pitch count was a little more manageable, and he absolutely shoved. Now, Tennessee hadn't been up losing that game. They are ahead 3-0 going into the 9th, and they lost 6-3. But yeah, that's baseball. So Doyle pitched well. He actually pitched better than Cade Anderson, who got a no decision. Anderson, the best thing about Cade is he touched 97, which for us, for our eyes on him, I haven't cross-checked with Synergy or anything else, but Cade Anderson touched 97. First time we ever had an eyewitness him touching 97, and it came 2 weeks after he threw the 135 pitches at Oklahoma. So that was really, really good take. He struck out 11 in 7 1/3. He threw another 114 pitches, which isn't crazy. It's not like 135, but so that's manageable. But he's getting his work in each weekend. We can definitely say that.
It's like, what I think we're going to do for our way too early mock draft in 26? We're just going to use placeholders, right? Hey, this is reserved for a college lefty who continues to post each week. This is reserved for college righty who blows up and makes sure he strikes out a lot of guys. I keep looking at Doyle, just the way he attacks that Tarek Skubal, here it is, shotgun fastball. I'm throwing it at you. Let's see what you can do with it. Love how he competes. Cade Anderson, you talked about it a couple weeks ago. It's like he's got 10 different pitches. He uses that breaking ball to do all sorts of different things. Do those look like slam dunk top 10 picks right now?
I would say so, yeah. My only question, Arnold's number 1. Depends on the day you see Anderson, Doyle. Doyle's numbers say pick me next, but I'm kind of a Cade Anderson fan. 5, 6, 7 pitch, whatever. He's got tremendous feel. Doyle looks more like a reliever, but he's obviously getting the job done starting. So all 3 are heading into pro ball as starters. But I think at the end of the day, Anderson may just have a little more upside. I just hope he's all in one piece when he gets there.
Well, he will, because Seif, don't be soft about it. You can throw 120, 130 pitches. These guys aren't.
They don't even do that in pro ball at the major league level. So anyway, I'll get off my soapbox.
It'll start changing. Do you find any of Doyle? I always look at the idea of being dependent on the velo curve, where he's dependent on how hard he throws, versus a Cade Anderson who can manipulate. If he's 92, 94, it's okay in the Max Fried zone. But is Doyle a guy he has to keep throwing hard to be effective?
I think somewhat that, and I think the other part of that is the ball. His fastball has to continue to just have that carry, right? So he's got to be throwing hard, but it has to be carrying through the zone above the bat. So that's his definitely have to do. Whereas, and if he doesn't have that, might not be the best day. Whereas kind of what you're talking about, Cade Anderson, if he doesn't have 97 that day or 95, he still can spin a couple different breaking balls. He can still subtract. He's got some other ways to get you out.
It's very interesting. And then a couple of the righties, and we've talked about Kyson Witherspoon, who has been outstanding for Oklahoma. He's a guy that me, it's just he keeps posting.
He does.
But you are all in on Marcus Phillips, Tennessee right-hander. he had a statement game on Saturday night at the box, and I'm watching it like that's what a big leaguer looks like. This guy is huge. He's durable. It's coming out of the hand, and my man was mean.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. That's what they look like. That's how they throw. And the thing with him, he's different in the sense that he probably has more projection than anyone. Like as far as those guys all have ceiling to get to, right? They're none of them are what they are. But like if anybody has the most, it's Marcus Phillips, man. It's his first full year really pitching. I mean, people know his story. He's a high school kid out of South Dakota. It's not like he was frozen there forever. His dad went up there to play professionally, and that's just where he met a local lady, right? And he settled down there. So he's from South Dakota, but his father has the baseball background. So one year at Iowa Western as a two-way guy, but he's hurt for most of it. That 1 year at Iowa Western, he was our number one junior college prospect. Obviously didn't live up to the billing at that time in his freshman year when he got hurt, but then went to Tennessee last year, threw 25, 30 innings, maybe out of the bullpen, just kind of in a reserve role. And now he's just taking center stage, and he was the 3-starter. Now he's the 2-starter. And I don't think he's ever going to pass Doyle in the rotation, but I mean, he put away, he was just cruising along throwing 95, 97 with his fastball. He's got a firm changeup, 90, 91. He's got a really good slider as well. And all of a sudden he just busts 100 and they're just by the hitter. It's like a 2-2 pitch or a 3-2 pitch, 100 right there. Just, all right. He knows he can reach back for 100 whenever he wants. It was just really incredible. Just a really good look. And he battled for, I think, 6 or 7 innings, pitched around back-to-back home runs, 1 inning. But he was, again, like you said, a statement game, but he's the real deal.
I was blown away just watching the presence on the mound because, hey, the box is no joke. You walk in there as an opposing guy, you're coming off a night where I think they'd walked them off, right? Bear Jones takes his driver out of the bag and hits it about 400 yards to walk him off. And then they go out there and make that statement game. Talk about Phillips versus Witherspoon. Does that become a discussion at any point? Do you anticipate that?
I think obviously, like we just kind of stated, like Phillips has more ceiling just because he's bigger and stronger, right? But Witherspoon right now is more polished. But yeah, it's a very good comparison. Witherspoon throws four quality pitches for strikes. Phillips throws 3, but Phillips could probably be your number one, your ace, where maybe Witherspoon probably won't ever be on a playoff team ace, but he could be a really good 2. So with that said, that's so hard to predict at the end of the day. But yeah, Phillips does have the ceiling just to be that perennial all-star type of guy.
You know who's really pumped about this? All those organizations who don't really want to take high school risks keep adding these college guys who keep posting and making them feel a little more comfortable on the inside. Oh, if we don't get this guy, we can go here. So that's really cool to see. You got AJ Russell, who the electric stuff, the electric arsenal, the upside. I didn't get a chance to see him. How did he do against LSU?
Not so well. Kind of again, he's just starting. He's coming back from his injury. He only went 2. It was pretty shaky. He gave up a couple home runs, and just the command or control or whatever you want to say just wasn't there. But again, maybe the moment got too big for him because, as you know, the box is huge. It was tied 1 game apiece heading into the finale on Sunday. I guess shaky. It wasn't like he wasn't any good. He just wasn't first round good, right? He was up 95, 96, but it just wasn't the AJ Russell that can be, and he will be. He'll get another start or 2 in him, and he'll be back up there. But how about that rotation? Your weekend rotation of Doyle, Phillips, and then when Russell gets back to full go, and you got Tegan Coons in your back pocket as a sophomore eligible next year. He's a day 1 guy already. First round, second round, who knows? But man,
they got a bunch of dudes up there. I do find it interesting, and for those listening, like each team is not the same, right? The 30+ MLB clubs that are coming in, some guys are more willing to take the risk versus reward, right? Hey, we're going to grab this upside, the metrics. So you think about AJ Russell, they may value him a little bit higher because we have good player development. That's a guy we can take and do this. We can get a ton out of it versus we need the higher floor player to come into it. But shifting over to some of the position guys. I know Rhett the Jet was locked in. Our producer here was a big Aggie fan. They had a tough weekend there as Coach Slosh just continues to refuse to lose with Texas. But Jace Lavalette, you have on here, he continues to quietly improve his strikeout rate. What do we got with him? Because it's always been super quiet at the dish, right? There's not much pre-pitch movement. What do you got from him?
Well, there's not much pre-pitch movement, but it's almost the point where it's just stiff, right? And the first half of the season, it just wasn't a natural swing. And as you know, like when you're looking at hitters, you'd rather take the guy that just swings smoothly and naturally over the kind of the manufactured swing. And Level A just has one of those where it gets stiff and it just doesn't look natural. And you're kind of like, ugh. And especially it's when he's not producing. But the biggest thing on him coming into the season was his strikeout rate, right? It was in the mid-20s as a freshman and as a sophomore. And the big thing, can he get below? He's got to get below 20, right? If he's going to be 1-1 or even the top 10 or overall, he's just got to get below 20. And he's below 20. He's like at 19.2, which it's just under, but that's the improvement. And then to counter that, or on the flip side of that, is can they improve that strikeout rate while maintaining or increasing their ISO, which is their real slugging, right? And he hasn't done that. His ISO has been from 420 to 355, but it was in the 200s just a few weeks ago. So he's just slowly inching along, slowly grinding away, finding his swing, figuring it out, and he'll be back. I know on a lot of lists, not our list, he never dropped out of the top 10 on our list, but I know a lot of he did. But we just kind of just kept going back to the fact like, hey, he's done it. He'll find it. He's going to do it again. So now my only question is, can he continue to drop that strikeout rate, get it in the 17th, maybe even, but increase that ISO. So we'll see. But he's certainly on his way to doing so.
Does it help? Like you say that he's improved it. He's improving it in the SEC. like it's not like, hey, we had a couple cupcakes back-to-back weekends, right, and I jumped up. Like, no, he's facing dudes every time he gets on there. Does that help?
Right. He struggled. Yeah, he struggled non-conference and in the pre-conference season for the most part. And for sure, organizations are going to look at overall, but they're going to break it down. They're going to conference games versus lefties versus righties. They're going to break it down by like the pitcher you face, the guys throwing 92 or above, things like that. They're going to break it down every imaginable way. So the fact that he's doing it against SEC competition where most arms are over 90, 92, yeah, that speaks volumes.
It's I had one scout talk to me one time about when I was in school, and he's like, did you know you pitched way better at home than away? And I'm sure most of these guys have no idea because I didn't. I was like, I love pitching on the road where all the chirping was going on and the adrenaline that brought.
Well, you had all those groupies at home, so I know that probably was a big distraction for you.
Let's shift over to the Hawaiian Islands because it's become kind of a contest between Arquette and Aloy.
Yeah, that's where we have them. Yeah, that we have the top shortstop battle between Arquette and Aloy, and neither are slowing down. Actually, Arquette's picking it up. He started off good, kind of hit about a 6-7 week lull there where people were driving away from him, but now he's picking it back up. I think he's up to 16, 17 home runs now, hitting almost 380. So he's back up to where people thought he would be. And Aloy just hit the ground running first game. He's not slowed down. He's just bashing. Doesn't matter who it is. He is just mashing along. So those are our 1 and 2. Two others that come in that conversation for 2 would be Alex Lodice, who I just saw at Louisville this weekend, and then Merrick Houston, who started out awesome and has kind of been stuck on 10 home runs for a long, long time now. And I think only maybe 1 or 2 are in the ACC.
Did they push the fences back at Wake Forest?
I'm sorry?
Did they push the fences back at Wake?
They must have, for ACC play, they must have moved him back a little bit. But Houston, for me, not that he's still in the first round, but for me, he's the 4th of those. Arquette, Aloy, Lodice, and Houston. Houston would be 4th. But again, the industry is going to vary on that. I think most have Arquette as number 1, and then you kind of put the other 3 in whatever order you want. But again, for me, they're all having good years. It just seems like Houston hasn't been doing what Arquette, Aloy, and Lodice. Lodice is a story himself. That's just a great story there too.
Isn't that amazing? Just keep playing ball. That heck of a family. That family reunion must be a good little pickup wiffle ball game.
Yeah. Well, Kyle from Georgia Tech, he's in kind of the I don't say the next mix, but he's kind of, you have, as far as your middles go, we left out Gavin Keelan.
We'll get to him in a second. I got some stuff to say about him.
Sounds good.
I will say I'm looking like Arquette and Aloy. I'd have like probably 8 prep guys, if not ahead of them. very much in the mix of those two or between those two. But that just kind of gives you a glimpse of like, hey, you can't really go after these safe hot college guys that made you warm and fuzzy the past few years where you can just grab this and we'll grab some later, because those high school guys are not going to be on the board. They are good enough to be up there.
Right.
Let's talk about Gavin Keelan, though, because you tell me, I'm just going to give you, this was just me in the command center watching, and he went backside line drive. It was just like, that's a professional hitter. And it was a really strong approach, kind of what I expect from Wisconsin shortstops and infielders at this point. They just take great at-bats and know how to hit. This weekend was the first time where I was like, yo, this guy's going to hit really at a high level. What do you got on Gavin Keelan? What's the deal with him?
For me, I was sold on his defense. He made a play when I was at Tennessee, maybe 5-6 weeks ago. He made a backhand up the middle play. I'm like, all right, I'm sold on the defense. Not that I wasn't, but that just solidified because I knew he could play second base. But what sells me, what excites me, and it's kind of like when I watch Kyle Schwarber as an area scout, or when I watched Jack Kaggs last year, right? Like, and Kaggs maybe not the best comp because he chased a lot, but Killian hardly ever chases. But what I like the most is every swing he takes is really, really good. He stays behind the ball. He uses his entire body for his power. He's just always on. He might be slightly off playing, but he's just always on the ball. It's just incredible. And I know I'm comparing him to a couple power hitters there or what have you, but he's every swing, every time, every pitch he sees, it's like he's going to do damage. He's going to drive it to a gap. He's going to drive over the wall. I just love his swing, every single one. He doesn't take a bad swing. At least I've never seen one. I've seen a ton of his swings this year. And that is what separates him from me. So for me, if I'm ranking him overall, it's Arquette, then Killian, and then Aloy in that order, as far as if we're going to group the middle infielders and not just shortstops.
Guys are going to hit. Now, what about Colby Shelton and Colin Yeaman? Shelton, Florida, started off at Alabama. He is a Florida kid, was kind of up on our board last year, fell throughout the year. I think he's hitting like 380 right now. What do you got in Colby Shelton? Where does he situate into this year's draft? And what about Colin Yeaman, who has just exploded throughout this season?
Yeah, as we know, Shelton was a freshman in Alabama, right? And he transferred to Florida for his sophomore year, which he was sophomore eligible. I think he just pressed a little bit. He did hit 20 home runs last year. As the everyday shortstop at Florida, he moved from third base to shortstop. But the question going into last year was like, hey, can he play shortstop, right? Can he play shortstop? And if he's going to hit all those home runs, a shortstop hitting home runs, right? That pays. That's a top 10 overall top 10 overall type of pick. But he scuffled, hit 254, and he struck out like 26% of the time. So then the question becomes, okay, well, he's proven he can play shortstop because he is an above average shortstop. He has range, he has plenty of arm, like plus arm, plenty of range. He's got actions. He can come in. He can go every direction. So I'm sold on him as a shortstop, staying as shortstop in pro ball. But then the question becomes is, man, 26%, that's a lot of striking out, and that doesn't play. That is not a first or a second rounder, right? So he's cut that down. He's over half of that. He's at just under 12%, and he's still walking. And the final part of that equation, like we talked about, is what has his ISO done? Has it, gone up, down, stayed the same? It has gone down, but not drastically. So it's went from 297 to 229, which, there's a reduction there. But his averages went from 254 to 377. So if we're just playing with stats, because he has the tools, and I hate to come on here every week and talk about stats, but we're talking about guys that have tools, right, Shooter? We're talking about guys that have first-round tools, have second-round tools. So now the performance really matters. Where are you going to put yourself in that first round or second round or, the top round? So he's not only has the tools to play at shortstop, he's got the hit ability, he's proving the bat to ball, and now he's just got to let the power come. And that's going to be just more maturity, seeing more pitches, getting bigger, stronger, faster, things like that. So, for me, I don't know if a lot of clubs would agree, but Colby Shelton, for me, he's played his way into the top 35 or 40 picks.
Okay. Interesting for them to go there. What about Colin Yeaman? Because you start, analyzing the draft as a whole, even just day one. So the top three rounds. Hey, is it worthy, like for a guy like Colby Shelton, where you pass on Aloy for the high school kid thinking, hey, we're going to identify Colby Shelton at pick 40 or 42, and we'll get that guy because the talent separation isn't quite enough. Is that something that may be in consideration for teams?
Certainly so, because there is a group behind the Arquette, Killeen, Aloy, Alex Lodice, Houston. Behind those, there is a group of middle infielders, with Yeeman being one of them. Like you said, in the 40 to 50 range, right? So you're going to have a guy, if you have a pick in that range, you could potentially get a prep shortstop and a college middle infielder. So this guy's just taking everybody surprised. He's shortstop at UC Irvine. He's a bigger bodied guy, plays shortstop, but he'll probably move to third. But it's not like he's some stiff. He is athletic. He moves well. So he has a chance to play at shortstop, but just his size may just move them. And he's got the pop to go along with it. He has 12 home runs, 50 RBIs. His ISO is almost 350, and he's only striking out 17% of the time. And this is a junior college transfer from, I believe, Canyon, College of the Canyons there.
Yes.
And I think he started his freshman year, like some at a 4-year school in Texas too. So he's got a story. They all have stories, but he's got a nice story. But he has just kind of popped on the national radar and the scouting director radar here recently, just because he started to hit, is continued to hit. Now he's added some power, and guys are, I don't say just finding out about him. It's not like it's been that immediate, but. I also double dip with D1 baseball, as you know, and Aaron Fitt was out there seeing Cal Poly and UC Irvine, not Cal Poly, this past weekend in their 3-game series. So he gave me some firsthand scoop on Yeeman as well.
It's a good play, and you know what else helps? Winning helps you as a prospect. It really. You look at Shelton. Well, what's changed? Well, they're winning. Florida's turned things around. He's doing a good job. Colin Yeaman comes to the park. They're number 8 in the country now, the Eaters over there. Keelan the same way. Goes off. Hey, Tennessee, every time he puts on the uniform, he's feeling great. Let's talk about some Big Ten guys, because I know you've been banging the pots and pans for weeks now about Corbin Dickerson at Indiana. You also have Mitch Voigt here, Michigan kid, former Super 60 guy. Mason Neville, who's a Vegas kid who started off at Arizona, transferred up to Oregon, has always had tools through the roof, five tool potential. Like it was speed, arm, hit, power, everything was there. The swing and miss was just always present with him. So it's glad to see him going. Talk about some of those guys in the Big Ten.
Yeah, I saw Corbin Dickerson 2 weeks ago at Illinois. And I mean, it's a 5-tool guy. There's his exit velocities will tell you there's 70 raw power in there. His max is 115 this year, and he can just absolutely whistle it. I mean, that ball whistles. It's kind of like your Dakota Jordan, right? Just like ungoshly bat speed. Like, holy cow, he just whistled it through there. And Dickerson, he's sophomore eligible, transfer from Louisville, putting together a great year. 17 home runs, batting 347. The K rate's in the 17.5. So all those type of measurables add up because he has tools. He has a 50-55 arm. Some people don't think he's going to stay in center. Some people, but he has the arm and the speed for either corner. But I actually think he's going to play in center for quite some time. It was a super windy day at Illinois, like most of them usually are this year. Ball hit over his head. He broke back immediately, ran the perfect rounded off route, rainbow route, whatever you want to call it. Circled back right underneath, stood there waiting for the high fly ball on the warning track to come down, stood there, caught it right in his mitt. Like, guys don't really do that, and they certainly don't do that on a 25-mile-per-hour gusty, windy day at the University of Illinois when the sun, and I left this part out, when the sun is basically in your eyes because it's kind of in that southwest quadrant at that time of day. So, yeah, he's a super talented kid, 6'1", 205. So he has everything we're looking for a center fielder.
Does it help him the fact that Devin Taylor was so highly rated? Everybody's got to come in, right? Scouting directors, special assistants, maybe even GMs going in to see him. Well, now all of a sudden, Corbin Dickerson, you're getting these extra looks. Guys are really cluing in. Do you think that's helped him a bunch this year?
Oh, 100%. 100%. Yeah, and especially you can just see him in 2 at-bats, right? I think they hit 2 and 3. So there you go. Your work's done. Pretty much your work is done, and within a 5-minute span, then you wait another 25, 30 minutes to get another chance to look. So, yeah, it was fun. The only tough part is one's left-handed hitter, one's right-handed hitter. So if you're getting video, you got to kind of space that out a little bit.
There you go. You got to do a little sprint action. What about Mitch Voigt, who Wisconsin kid, 2-way? It was always like, this guy's just a gamer, ball player, can get after it. He's going to find a way to impact the game. What do we have from him this year?
He can just hit. Okay. The first time I saw him, it was 2 summers ago at the CNT, and he was just there as a freshman, wasn't sophomore eligible or anything, but he's just there as a freshman as a two-way guy. They like the two-way guys with the CNT, just saves them roster spots. And he was just very like, okay, you look at him, he's 6 foot, 205 pounds, physically mature. There's not a lot of projection there. But you look at his tools, right? He had above average plus arm from second base. I think he played a little third base for him as well. His freshman year he did. And then for the CNT, kind of went between the two and pitched a little bit, like I said. And his numbers were okay, so he's a guy you're thinking about. But this year he's just exploded, right? He still has the arm strength. They moved to second base. He's a bigger second baseman, but he's fine there. But he's got power. He hits for average, hitting 371 now, 10 home runs. His strikeout rate's only 13%. So, as much as you don't care for the projection because there's not a ton, Michigan has a pretty darn good history with second baseman, shortstops succeeding in pro ball. Their players move on and play well, and Voigt's going to be next in line. Probably mid-second, late second round is kind of where he's positioned himself as of now. But the prep class better, and if deals are going to be cut, then you never know what's going to happen in front of or behind him.
I'm always fascinated, like a guy, Danny Dickinson, kind of the same build with like the shorter arms, can get to the ball. They limit the holes in their swing. But Mitch Voigt was like a perfect example of like, he was a two-way guy in high school and coming to the Super 60, like, do we want a two-way? How does this guy fit in? It was like, he's going to find some way. He just come in two-way. When we want to see you hit, we want to see you pitch. You're going to come and do it, which has happened with several guys in recent years, including what's the Grinzel at Oregon. I don't even know if he ended up pitching at the Super 60 because he wasn't in shape or something like that. But he came and hit. It was like, this kid's going to be good. We'll figure it out. But anyway,
that's part of Voigt's thing too. Voigt gave up pitching this year and just strictly concentrate on hitting too. So that's obviously been part of his process, his improvement, and that's why I'm just going to keep talking about Cags. That's why it's so amazing about Cags, because he was doing both at a high level, right? Like some guys, I'm not saying Voigt can't, but he wasn't. So he just gave it up. And now he's doing this time. It just, never seen before success, but guys that can do both at a high level, they're just incredible.
Mason Neville probably could have done both at some point because he had huge arm talent. I think he did pitch a bit in high school. What have you seen to hit from him? And then I'm going to press you a little bit on how much the difference is between he and some of these guys who are anticipating in the first round. What has he done this year, and where has he situated himself when looking ahead to July?
Right around where Voigt's at, strong second round. The difference, and I'll answer your question right now, the difference with like Neville is just he's not striking out, right? Like last year, he struck out 33.5% of the time. His freshman year at Arkansas, now it was only in like 30 at bats or something. It was like 2/3 of the time. I think it was like 60% of the time he went to the plate as a freshman in Arkansas, he struck out. So he went to Oregon, improved upon it. It was like 33 last year, but you're still like, man, he's striking out 33% of the time in college. It just doesn't play, right? It just does not. You're not even a draft. No matter all the talent, this guy can throw, he can run. He's a very fringy defender, but he's got some tools. He's got a great, he's 6'3", 210, so he looks the part. Left-handed hitter with power, so he's got all that. But he has cut his strikeout rate down to 21%. Now, generally, you don't take those guys inside of pick 50, 60. Neville might be the exception around 60, but if he continues doing what he's doing, he even gets it again. 20% is kind of just the magic number. If he gets it below there, and there's not a lot of in-zone miss, and it's more chase, then you got a case for him to, go even a little bit higher.
How much, he goes from the SEC to the Pac-12 to now the Big Ten. How much analyzation gets done on, is there what do you think there's a percent for this conference, and you just kind of compare the guys to each other, whether it's Mitch Voigt within the Big Ten versus hey, the SEC, there might be a little more leeway. These arms are bigger arms generally going out there, but you talk about 3 different conferences for him, right?
Right.
So is his number does he have to get even lower than a Cags would because of where he was in the SEC?
Yeah, but he's not in that category. But I see what you're saying. But at the end of the day, they do break it out by conference, yes, but they do break it even more by, all right, how many guys did he face? What did he do against the guys pitching 92 or above? Or what did he do against pitchers that are projected to be drafted in the top 5 rounds or top 3 rounds? Or, it's kind of just like the strength of schedule, right? And college basketball or baseball or whatever. It's kind of like that. What do you do against his competition? Again, most of his games have been in the Big Ten. You'll only maybe find 1 or 2 pitchers per series that you'll find like 3 or 4 per game in the SEC. Yeah. You get the deal. But yeah, I mean, it even gets granular as that.
And it's I find it to be so much of the importance of the area scout. Where is this guy on his development curve? Is he just starting to click, or is he just getting older than guys? And I think that's an important aspect of scouting. Whereas I keep thinking about like Matt Shaw. Matt Shaw is coming from New England, super athletic. Hey, he may just be starting to get better on this curve. And hopefully that's the same for a guy like Colby Shelton, who's having a good year. Yeaman finding his reps, getting his things done. And then Neville, who, tool-wise, it's tough to find an athlete that is that good. He's in the upper percent of anybody who can do this. And if you're a team looking for value, that's a guy you really need to consider, because if he's just getting going and hitting his stride, you're going to grab some serious value there in that 50 to 60 range. Oh no, I'm looking at the list here, Seif, as we're changing. Ethan Petrie hurt. That's not
sorry.
good. My guy.
I threw that on there just for you. I know you got the Petrie man crush.
What happened?
I hate to sour on your Monday, but that's what we're looking at in a sling.
Hey, let me ask you this, because I was watching LSU, and it's enamoring, right? You watch the box, there's glitz and glamour. It's 2 a.m. Bear Jones is hitting balls 460 feet over the batter's eye. Compare Jones to Petrie, value-wise. What is there a discussion to be had with those two? Powerful swings, and just how much differential is there?
Petrie to who? I'm sorry. Petrie to who? I'm sorry.
Petrie to Jared Jones at LSU.
Boy, great question. I mean, that's
putting you right on the hot seat here.
Yeah, I mean, for me, right now, I'm taking Petrie, but man, on July 11th, 13th, sorry, I'm better than this. Come on,
13th.
13th. Thank you. It may change. I mean, I'm a huge fan of Jones. He's got the best power in college baseball, and he's hitting for average, and he plays a pretty good first base. Petrie has a chance to stay in the outfield, but he's probably going to be a first baseman. But he's raked for 3 years in a row, right? And this is really Jones's first year where he's lowered he's lowered his K rate, but he's also his ISOs. Believe it or not, his ISOs went down. Maybe that's a function of the balls or the bats, or offense is down in college baseball anyway. So ISO isn't adjustable in that sense from year to year. So you have that, but man, that's a great comparison. At this point, I'll take Petrie.
I will say to the offense, the SEC strike zone has gotten bigger. I will guarantee you it has gotten much bigger this year in all the games I'm watching. I don't know if it's the fact that 2 new teams came in, 6 new umps came in, but like the strike zone is definitely bigger. So I'm curious.
You keep track of umps? Oh my gosh, dude. You are out of control now.
You have to. You added 2 new teams, so you had to bring in more umpires, right?
Right, but like that's okay.
Oh, if you don't know the SEC umps,
you're way beyond that simplicity. You are just way beyond that simplicity.
If you don't know the SEC umps by this point, Seif, you have not had enough time in the command center. And I can guarantee any SEC fans out there know all of the umps who are going at it. But
I typically I spend, I don't know, a third of my game in the press box, maybe half the game in the press box, and the other half doing video and sitting behind the plate or whatever on the field each game. And typically there's always an umpire supervisor, no matter what conference it is, there's always umpire supervisor. So granted, I got kicked out once a year when I was coaching for 9 years. I got kicked out 9 times, one each year. I didn't have a lot of respect maybe for umpires, or as much as I should have back then. But I've got a ton of respect for umpires now. And much of it is just listening to the umpire supervisors and just striking up conversations. So, but that's very intuitive of you to say there's at least 6 new umpires. That's really good.
And I'm okay with the bigger strike zone. I think it had to get there. But I'm fascinated if any analytics departments have dived in that deep to where like last year was different than this year, 2 years ago, with regards to the offense and the pitching. But it is fascinating. The Petrie versus Jared Jones, who keeps, I'll call him Bear Jones. I like calling him Bear Jones.
Bear, yeah, I like that.
But there is a point of value in those two guys, right? Is this guy $50,000 more? Is he $100,000 better? Is he $500,000 better? What about this high school guy comes into the mix? And it's something you need to start considering at 18 through 30. What can we get here? We have an extra pick in the 30s. We might be able to get this guy and that value next. So like those are all the things that have to go into the consideration when going into the draft, especially with regards. But it was something that popped into my head this weekend. I was like, huh. And you know how much I love Petrie. He's like one of my favorite bats, but I was like, how much do I like him? Do I like him that much more than Jared Jones? And it's a discussion when you're sitting in that hot room.
Well, I mean, you are the money man and everything, but like $50,000 or $100,000, even $500,000, that's really nothing. Like just sign the best player, right? So if Petrie wants more, granted, again, let me back up 2 minutes. I want Petrie without the sling. I'd take Petrie without the sling over Jared Jones. So just want to qualify that here. But the money really doesn't matter. I mean, unless we're talking millions and your bonus pool, I get all that. But like you're just taking the best player. And if you're comparing Jones to Petrie, you're going with the one that your scouts and your analytics and like the most. So
but if you go even deeper into like, say you want a prep right-hander, right? And the way that I look at it, and I think most teams, you're going to try to grab quality out of quantity, and you're getting a couple guys. What if it's the difference between we can get two really good prep righties and Jared Jones versus one prep righty and Petrie? Like I think that's something just like the balance, and it comes down to the signability and where these guys are at, and again the accounting of it. But I think that's something that's teams are definitely considering. Anyway, Brendan Summerhill came back, and I know he's an Illinois guy, Chicagoland. What do we got? Brendan Summerhill, he's back. First round, yes or no?
Yeah, I'd say he probably, when he went out, he was probably around the 20th pick. And I would say he's probably held that, maybe went down a little bit, but he's back. Same guy, recovered from the injury, and he just keeps moving forward. He hardly strikes out. I think scouts and myself included, we just want to see him hit for some more power. You got this body, you got all these tools. You can show me average raw power in batting practice. Now get to it in the game. He only has 3 home runs this year after hitting 8 last year. Now, with that said, his average is up from like 320 to 420. And his strikeout rate, again, is 11%, which hardly exists. So seeing a lot of good things from Summerhill. But, yeah, he's probably around pick 20, 25 right now.
Interesting. Another first rounder on the board. Cam Leiter, who could return. Are we hearing that he actually is going to return?
I am hearing there's a chance, I say a good chance, but there's, when you started the season, he'll be back. He has some work. The whole word was he's got some work to do, but he'll be back this season, right? So you kind of just keep going along. And the official word, the unofficial word now is like he's trying to come back by the end of May. That's his target date, the end of May. So, that puts you in regional. So all of a sudden, in addition to that phenomenal pitching staff they already have, the Seminoles could possibly have Cam Leiter for an inning here, an inning there.
It's probably important for him to get something in prior to a regional to get outings. I'm thinking about, was it Prelip a couple years ago who didn't throw like late in the year and kind of did the bullpen circuit? It'll be interesting and fascinating to follow because Cam Leiter is one of the big arms. We've been searching for all these college arms this year, right? And
we have, and they're starting to emerge. I mean, I just looked last year, there were 5 college arms taken in the first round. That includes the comp round. So amongst the top 43 or whatever, there are 5. And this year it looks like to be easily there could be 5. So we talk about how this draft is not as good as last year's college class wise, and it's not, but there's still pitching there to be found.
I was trying to dive into like, this is essentially the 2022 class's draft year, right? They get on campus. And it's like, where do these arms go? There were a fair amount of draft softs from this group. Also, you look at like Caden Dana, who was a Jersey kid who was supposed to be at Kentucky. He gets a record-setting signing bonus, I think in the 11th round. He got like $1.5 million in the 11th round. He's already made his big league debut last year. Tyler Goff, who was a kid from JSR Catholic down in California, he was supposed to be at Oregon State. He signed in like the 8th or 9th round. He was one of the bigger arms in that class who could have gone to Oregon State, turned into a big arm, but still noodling on that. There are a lot of arms taken in 22 from the draft side. But some awesome college stuff. It's going to continue, as always, to play itself out. I'm very fascinated, obviously, on Cam Leiter, Jersey kid, down at Florida State, to see what happens with him coming back. The other thing that I have down here and shifting a little bit to tiering and getting the prospects in those groups. We were just talking about how do you tier guys like Petrie versus Jared Jones, getting them on the board. They're in this grouping. And going back to the top of the show with all those prep shortstops, having those guys set and how, hey, this is a first round grade. And I think the way I put it was like 8 to 10, maybe even more, those first round grades on those guys versus last year where it was like 2 or 3. So again, a massive jump in value this year with regards to the position players. And I am a huge fan of those guys. I know there's some risk that comes with that moniker of being that preposition guy, but these are athletes. They're going to find a way. And I think last year, you look at some of the guys who got taken early, there's like almost 15 dudes that I would take ahead of them in this year's class, which is saying a lot, Seif. I think that's why a lot of special assistants, scouting directors are crisscrossing the country looking at these high school guys, which is not always easy. As I found out when you head up to the Northeast, there could be some rainouts, snowouts, whatnot. But Seif, let me ask you about something that you saw last week, because Cam Appenzeller finally hit the mound this spring. He's our number 1 left-handed pitcher in the class. Looked like the velocity did not jump out. Would say at least. What did you have? Tell me about the outing.
What jumped out was just his control, right? He was healthy and he had good control. He threw 18 of 20 pitches for strikes, showed fastball up to 91. Mostly it was 89, 90. Slurved his breaking ball across the slate. It wasn't really, I mean, if we're being honest here, it just wasn't that good, right? It was like a 35 grade pitch on the pro scale. And this changeup was good. His changeup was solid. You could probably 45 or 50'd it as present major league average. You give it a 6 if you're being conservative, or maybe even a little bit higher. So right now he looks like probably a mid-90s lefty, projection on mid-90s lefty with a plus changeup and a usable breaking ball. So 3 pitches for strikes. That's pretty good, whether it's 3 years from now or if it's again as a prep being taken. I didn't see anywhere near a first rounder or even a second rounder on that look, but it was his first outing. It was only 20 pitches. And the team he was playing against just was not good. So the pitches were in the zone. They were just swinging and missing. It wasn't like they were swinging and misses and a bunch of pitches out of the zone. So that didn't really go into the control grade or what I saw. But, hey, got the jitters out first inning, threw a bunch, or first outing in the spring, got through a bunch of strikes. It looked good to me.
What about the timeline? So even more broadly, talk about the progression of a spring for a prep arm. Now, I've seen a bunch of guys where go in like, there's almost like a ground floor of like, hey, mitigate our risk for us. We want to see that velocity, right? Guys go in like, oh, he's got to touch this number, which I kind of think's a little ridiculous just with the fact of how much easier it is to gain velocity at this point with all the specialized people. But like, it seems like he has to post. He's going to have to continue to climb. There are other guys I saw where it's like, oh, he's down, taking a step back. But you kind of believe in the structure of the player development. Hey, this guy can get to here, right? Cam Appenzeller goes to Knoxville, gets to Tennessee, and all of a sudden next fall he's 93 to 96. Are you kicking yourself at a certain point? What does he have to do, or what do these guys have to do with each progressive start? Is it important for them to tick up each start or to just maintain? What do they have to do?
I mean, best case, right? They tick up each time. So, it's in Appenzeller's case, he got a late start from high school basketball, late season, got a late start this spring. Illinois high school baseball started the end of March, I believe, is when they were allowed to have their first game.
It's been mess weather-wise, too.
It hasn't been the best. It hasn't been the worst. I mean, I live it every day, so it hasn't been the worst. I mean, today it's 83, right? So there's going to be a lot of baseball today. But if Jack Bauer's throwing 102, then, the weather's been good enough, I guess. But maybe he threw that down in Georgia, but he's still throwing it up here. So anyhow, yeah, I mean, in the perfect world, you want to see, okay, next down he's 92, 93, right? And his breaking ball is a little bit more firm, and he's still throwing strikes, right? But I think for him, for Appenzeller, he showed in the past, right? He showed, 94, 96 last summer. I know in some scouts lists, he was like one of their top 3 high school pitchers in the country, and maybe you're going on that, but like that's where he was evaluated from what he did last summer. He was that highly regarded. So I think he just keeps trending in the right direction. It doesn't have to be 1 mile per every week or, better this, better that. But as a whole, there's no reason to see he can't. He's got a short season.
Yeah, it'll continue to come for him. But what about just like specifically guys who back up? And you have stuff from the summer. We saw this. This is where it was. How important is it for them to get back to that and past it versus, hey, I evaluated this. This is where we have this guy. I think it can come. I like the makeup, everything about him. Is that something that gets taken into consideration, or is it more like, hey, our scouting director came in and like the risk, we just can't take on this risk?
Yeah, I think that's part of it on that end. But if the stuff backs up, okay, so I actually think more of it comes from the kid and the family and the agent than it does from the club, right? The club can sit there and say, okay, we saw you last July doing this, and we saw you in the fall doing this, now we see you in the spring doing this, right? So the club has their notes. But as a kid, as a parent of that kid, as an agent of that kid, if you're seen as a first rounder, top half of the first rounder going in to the draft, right? In the winter, it's December, draft is in July. You see yourself as a slam dunk first rounder, and then you don't pitch to it. Your stuff backs up, or you don't get to it. You're just not the same guy. What are you going to tend to do? You're going to tend to like, oh, I want $5 million because that's where I think I would have went, because that's what I think I'm worth. And then where do you end up? You end up on a college campus. So I'm not saying that's the case for Appenzeller, but if his stuff doesn't get to back to what it was in the summer, and he doesn't put himself where he thinks he was going to go, then yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up in Knoxville, which is a great thing for me because it's 8 hours from my house and I love going there.
And he'll be with Tegan Kuhns, he'll be with Braden, the whole deal. It's interesting when looking at our board, and we will be updating our big board, I think in a few weeks. I got to get with you on that, because before that, we're going to roll through a full mock draft with us talking. We'll bring the accounting into things with situations like this. This guy might price himself out, but when you look at our big board, it's not who's going to sign, right? Hey, this talent level's here. This guy may not go. Last year, 8 prep left-handers made 7 figures. 8. It was a pretty big year. I would anticipate it'll probably be similar this year with 8. And if you look at the board, and I love the fact that we're separating the positionality of the guys, right? The prep left-hander. Say Appenzeller prices himself out. Boom, he comes off the list. You got Jack Bauer, Cruz Schoolcraft, Slawinski, McKenzie. There's 4 guys there. Fernsler, who's off to a great start up in Michigan. Seif, that's why I was asking you about when you were going to Michigan for that Oregon game.
Sign me up. Let me know when he's pitching.
There were 5 there. But all of a sudden, if guys start pricing themselves out, like, oh, I want $2.5 million. Well, we only have 1.5. These 4 lefties come off the board. That next guy bumps up. It will be fascinating to see guys like Frank Carone, a kid in New Jersey, who was a super 60 guy. He's bumping into the mid 90s now, really loose arm, but he could move up steadily along with Cooper Underwood down in Georgia, Ethan Rogers, super 60 kid from Missouri. The signability, as always, comes into play, but all of a sudden you remove guys in a hurry, going from, and I always look at that $2 to $2.5 million range, where especially the prep righties, where, hey, I want $2.5 million. Well, like, you're worth 1.1, 1.2. 30 kids put themselves at 2.5. Those 30 get thrown out. All of a sudden, kid who's at number 48 or 63, he shoots up the board. He becomes number 7 on the list because he'll take 1.2. We will be diving into that. Hopefully, Rhett the Jet's going to be ready. We're going to be erasing boards, throwing stuff around, remanipulating signing bonuses. But Seif, are you ready for that type of accounting?
All I know is if you thought this podcast was good, I cannot wait for that one, because you're the accountant and my head's going to spin, and I'll probably just agree with you, but we'll have a fascinating chat.
Well, it's going to be fascinating too, and we'll put up some data from last year. You start looking at who are the top bonuses. It's not all first rounders, right? If you look at the top 25 bonuses from last year, you're looking at number 26 is 11th rounder Trey Gregory Alford, 1.2 million. Like, it's all over the place. There'll be some value with that. You are going to be ready for that, Seif. But to really get ready, you need to head over to shop.prepbaseball.com. I got my favorite white hat. Seif, you're rocking the gray. I got some new stuff coming in. Shout out to Anna in HQ.
Big shout out.
You got to be ready, because, Seif, it is not going to be cold and chilly there in Cary for you throughout the national team stuff. So make sure you got a nice little white shirt. I like to go with the black because if I'm sweating too much, the black doesn't show.
I got the sun hat. I got the floppy. So
You got the floppy. See, I'm not a floppy hat guy. I'm usually a towel on the neck. I like to have my polo, little quarter zip action early on in the day. If I'm in Long Beach, a little, you got to make sure the Marine layer, you got the quarter zip going, little hoodie. But
you never invite me there, so I don't have to worry about the Marine layer.
Well, in Hoover, I won't need the quarter zip in Hoover. There's no Marine layer there, is there?
No, there's a different layer there, but it's not Marine.
Well, make sure you head over to shop.prepbaseball.com. All your summer needs headed in there. Some good stuff. But the great Dr. Seifert, we got a lot of stuff to dive into the next, let's say, 7 or 8 weeks leading up to the draft. It's going to be a lot of fun. And as always, I appreciate you coming on. And until next time, we will see each and every one of you at the ballpark.